Hello, my lovely Oni fans. Welcome to another lore deep dive video, and we are reacting to every single Warhammer 40k faction explained part 2 by Bricky. Please bear with me. I pause a lot in this video since I love discussing the lore of my chat, and we do a little bit of shit posting, you know. We do a little bit of mischief while I stream. Alright, enjoy.
Hey all, this is part 2 in a 2-part series on the Warhammer races. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, we do the Imperium of Man. You can check that out in the description, and I would highly recommend you watch that to get context for this episode. If you already have, go ahead and keep on watching. So after an entire episode of nothing but humans, we can now talk about Chaos, which involves humans again, but a little bit less. We also got demons and shit.
I just felt someone grab my ass.
What?
Huh?
Like hard, Nick.
So,
Oh.
as I've mentioned many times before, we've discussed the warp, the immaterium,
Yes.
the hellish landscape, the purgatory dimension realm between the material realm of our existence. Now, in the warp, it's terrifying, horrible. There are demons everywhere. Things are crazy. All your minds and thoughts and emotions get projected there. It is
And you
both
can create
formless
chaos gods.
and empty. It is vast and tiny. It obeys the laws of time and physics while simultaneously does absolutely nothing of the sort. It is a hodgepodge and a culmination of just unknowable, eldritch, horrifying
Basically, it's like a septic tank of emotions and everything else all at once.
shit. And there are 4 gods that permeate in Chaos and the Warp. These are the 4 major chaos.
Okay, I want to see if I can remember. It's the number 1, you guys mentioned a lot. Slanesh, Nurgle, Zinch. Aiden, who's the next one? Who's the next one? What letter? What letter am I missing? What letter am I missing? Vegetables? VeggieTales? Corn! Corn! There should be a website called Corn Hub. And it's just information about corn. They should make that a thing.
Chaos gods. And if we wish to learn about chaos, we need to learn about each and every single one of these chaos gods. First up, we have Khorne, and he is the easiest. Khorne is your classic Satan. He is all about anger, murder, fighting, blood, guts, death. You ever heard the term blood for the blood god,
Yes.
skulls for the skull throne? That's Khorne. The whole idea is that he is all about the fury and strength of battle. He doesn't care where blood comes from so long as blood is flowing. He wants to fight and murder and carnage and slaughter and death, 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 death. That is Khorne. Very simple to understand. Next up you have Tzeentch, and Tzeentch is...
Okay, sorry to interrupt Bricky, but I just want to say one of the commenters on the previous video said that his nickname in another channel is like Titsnitch or something like that. I don't know, I just found that really funny. Titsnitch. Yes.
the god of change. However, the god of change, it's permeates
God
in so
of
many different other
change.
ways. He's the most eldritch of all the demon gods. He has this weird way to always be plucking at the strings of the universe. He's always conniving and scheming and doing his best to cause as much little bullshit as he can. Tzeentch is unknowable. Everything that makes sense, he will and won't do. Every future and setting and every type of destiny or fate is all foretold and also changeable. It is set in stone while also completely random. He knows what everything is going to happen and also that none of it's going to happen. You would ask Tzeentch a question. That question leads to 3 more questions. And those questions lead to the heat death of the universe, which asks 4 answers to those questions. And then he thinks to himself, what are questions even really? And are you even asking the questions? Or are you simply giving paths to answers and other horse shit? Tzeentch is just, I'm gonna fuck with stuff. He is yes and he is no. He is the understanding and he is complexity. He is unknowable. And that's what the God of Change is about. Very bizarre. And he likes birds a lot. I don't know.
He likes birds a lot. Okay, that is a very redeeming quality. At least he likes birds. I too love birds, especially Indian parrots. He's a mischievous one.
Know why. Next up, we got Papa Nurgle.
Papa Nurgle!
He loves you for who you are. Probably not. He will murder you just the same. But Papa Nurgle is about rot, pestilence, death, and decay.
Disease?
He is the end of everything. Him and Tzeentch do not like each other very much because where Tzeentch represents change and adjustment, Nurgle represents stagnation and death. He is all about miasma and pestilence and large bloat and pus and organs and people just being sedentary, sloth. He is the idea that everything will rot and decay and die. Nothing is certain besides decay and death. All of us will end up the same way, and broken down through just sheer never-ending decomposition. So the joke that Nurgle always loves you is generally because of that, because we all end up the same. We all rot, and we all die and wither. That's Nurgle, and he's got a general theme of course, pestilence and different kinds of diseases and sickness and things of that nature. That's generally Nurgle. He's pretty easy to understand as well, and he chunk. Finally,
He's a chunker. I'll make a chunker. Let's say I die. Does that mean he approves of me now? Does that mean he will love me now if I die? Then you're not rotting? So he'll love me if I'm rotting. He looks like the classic mean bully. Grandpa Nurgle loves all his children. We're looking for dad approval. Chaos God. I may or may not be looking for a father figure. And that is probably not Nurgle. Anyways, moving on.
we have the youngest of the Chaos Gods, and that is Slaanesh, also known as the Prince of Pleasure or the God of Unspeakable Excess. Slaanesh is generally referred
The god of debauchery.
to with sex, but it's not only sex, it's just that's a good avenue if you want to make stuff. Slaanesh is just the idea of the senses of the body being cranked to not just 11 but more like 17. See, we'll discuss Slaanesh a little bit more when we talk about the Eldar because they done fucked up, but it or whatever is mainly about just the excess of emotions, and therefore sex is generally a large part of it.
Slaanesh would be comparable to a succubus, right? But more extreme and probably more evil. Nurglites are possibly the only happy people in that 40k universe. I thought it was orcs, Fox. Isn't it orcs? Orcs aren't people, they're fungus. Oh, true, so they're like mushrooms. We made a joke how they're like mushrooms and they make really good cream of mushroom. So cream of orc would be, a questionable dish. Orcs are indeed fun guys. Exactly.
However, it's mostly pain and torture. Lots of pain, torture, but sometimes sexually related or
So
drugs related.
BDSM.
Lots of drugs. Lots of drugs. Slaanesh gets off on everything. Extremes in happiness, extremes in sadness, extremes in
Gets
pain
off in
and
everything.
sadism and masochism. And of course that goes along with the sex part of it as well. It's generally referred to with sex because of the color scheme, very purple, lots of exposed genitalia. A lot of their models have like exposed nipples and stuff. And that is generally the theme you go for from a physical side, but it really embodies everything. Mainly pain and also the excessive amounts of emotion. So when it comes down to it, you'll find a lot of them have things like spikes or whips or any kind of BDSM style gear because it is unspeakable excess, the Prince of Pleasure, everything in excess to the point where it is just sheer frightening. That is Slaanesh in a nutshell. A little bit bizarre and a little hard to describe sometimes, but as we talk more about the Dark Eldar later in this video, you'll understand it far, far better and far more than you'd want to. Now, you might be thinking,
Okay, pause that. Does Slaanesh want to bang everything? The Slaanesh choose who their chosen victim will be, or like basically anything that lives. Basically, Slaanesh is every hole is a goal.
why would anyone ever want to join chaos. They all look horrifying, screwed up, and just frightening things, right? Well,
Yeah.
the thing is that, of course, one, your mind is put into the warp and the materium, so you can be easily swayed by chaos demons when they get into your head, especially if you're a psyker. Sometimes regiments of the less mentally strong people, whether they be civilians or, say, low-level guardsmen or conscripts.
Okay, pause on that. So there's downsides to being a psyker, huh? The downside to being a psyker is you're prone to the warp's chaos.
Can be easily swayed by this and become chaos cultists and stuff, and they serve their dark gods of whatever god they personally prefer. However, and this might seem strange, chaos in their own right isn't necessarily evil. See, the warp is every manifestation of emotion and being, every soul, everything of existence.
If the humans of this day and age had a warp today, all our emotions, we're all there. The world is sad today, you know what I mean? Oh god, it'd be horrendous. Exactly.
This includes all the good things. All the different chaos gods have another side to their coin. Khorne might be death, murder, slaughter, slaughter, but he's also got this weird sense of survival of the fittest, trial by combat, and honor. Khorne will never lie to you. Khorne will never stab you in the back. Khorne isn't about conniving and scheming. Khorne is about straight up mano-y-mano, you versus me, get in the ring, we're gonna murder each other hard right now. It may not be a good thing at the end of the day, but it is that other side of the coin. Him and Tzeentch generally don't get along because Tzeentch is that conniving schemer, but it's also about the idea of hope. Where there's change, there's change for your predicament. There's change for your problem. The hope of the galaxy, the ability to bend the world to your will, the idea that your fate is not set in stone, but in reality that you control your own destiny and can control it whenever you want. The changer of ways, that is Tzeentch. And of course, Tzeentch and Nurgle hate each other because while Nurgle does represent stagnation, death, and decay, he also represents finality. An ending. The fact that you...
So Tzeentch is basically the freaking internet troll. Would you say that is an accurate comparison, Tzeentch and an internet troll?
can be mentally at peace knowing that you will end and how you will end. Fear of the unknown, fear of change is not present with Nurgle. With Nurgle, everything will rot and die, and that provides that finality, that ability that this is over. We are all the same, and we will all end the same. We know the meaning of life. The meaning of life is to live and die and rot. And with that, it brings peace of mind. Slaanesh is a lot more simple. While they are the excess of emotion, they are also the representation of emotion. Slaanesh embodies happiness. Slaanesh embodies excitement and joy and pleasure, not only in the sense of the physical, you know, bam style of pleasure, but also everything else like food and drink, and air on your cheek and sunlight, the feeling, emotion and feeling. All of that is also represented with Slaanesh. I have to ask, why are they always represented as super evil skulls and spikes on everything and want to murder everybody? I don't really got an answer for you on that one. My assumption is that because mentally humans may think worse thoughts even if we don't act on them, and therefore they're projected in the warp more. That one's a little bit weird. I don't know. This is me spitballing right now, but I don't know. You need a super bad guy. You already got the Imperium of Man. You need somebody to be a little bit worse than them. So you got demons. Honestly, who cares? I just want to buy like a bird magician. Look at him.
Yes, it's the blue, green eyes, blue dragon. Are those eyes even? I can't tell.
Cool. So combining all this together, on the tabletop, Chaos Demons are generally very melee-based. They run in, go really hard. You have lots of summoning and conjuring, tons of spells. Generally a little bit frail, but they have special saves to make them a little bit stronger. You've got giant demons and smaller demons.
That was such a little guy.
You got hordes of little boys and tons of big guys.
Oh, those wings are so cool. Oh, dude, he looks like a demon samurai. Like, it looks like a demon samurai armor with a whip. That is freaking awesome. That's so neat.
Demons are, as they seem, demons. Nurgle is slow. Khorne is super scary in melee.
Oh, Khorne is of the melee class.
You've got Zeech, who are far more into psychers and spellcasting, and then Slanesh, who is
So more into mindfuckery.
all melee, really fast, but squishy, but in lots of hordes of tons
Oh, they're like the agility build, the dex build. The dex build.
of melee and pain damage, of course. So overall, the demons are a huge part of 40k and a massive threat to almost every single faction, with the exception of a couple. However, the big part about demons is also transferred into the other 9 Primarchs we didn't talk about, which are the Chaos Space Marines.
The Chaos Space Marines. Chaos Astartes.
So
Look at
Horus
music.
and all of his boys, all of them in the Primarchs, they have all also become Chaos Boys, and they all have their own special Chaos Legions, specializing in so many different things, just like the Adeptus Astartes, the Agents of Death, the regular Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines aren't a whole lot different than the regular Space Marines. They have the same armor, generally the same training and toughness. They just specialize in different kinds of things. And also a lot of the Primarchs have ascended into
Pre-heresy,
greater
post-heresy.
demons. They're demon Primarchs at this point. Gigantic, horrifying man-demon hybrids that are pretty awesome, if I'm going to be honest. They look really cool. But them and their associated legions that they are a part of are all kind of going out there and causing a large ruckus for everyone else. Considering the raw strength and firepower of a legion of Space Marines, imagine that entire legion just converting to chaos and immediately fighting you. It's generally pretty horrifying. There's a lot of them, so I gotta write them down. But you've got the Emperor's Children with Primarch Fulgrim, loyal to Slanesh.
Primarch Fulgrim, loyal to
These people,
Slanesh. Oh, I just noticed his face.
they are some messed up.
He got that big hole in his mouth. He got that Slanesh. The Slanesh.
People. They're just sensory overload, tons of drugs, tons
Whoa.
of torture. And I think Fulgrim is a demon Primarch right now, and oh god, I am terrified to see what that man looks like, at least on the tabletop, because Emperor's Children are not good people. You've got the Iron Warriors, which are kind of like opposite of the Imperial Fists, with Primarch Perturabo, I believe is his name. They're chaos undivided. They just kind of serve chaos in a general aspect instead of choosing one of the 4. But the Iron Warriors are big on the siege and fortification, and they're basically entirely against the Imperial Fists and a major rival. Perturabo, I believe, is also still alive, and I'm also very interested to see what he looks like, because Demon Primarchs are badass. You've got the Night Lords with Primarch Conrad Kurz.
Conrad Kurz. That is the most normal name out of all of them. Well, Fulgrim is, I guess, also. Primarch Conrad. It's the least intimidating name.
Conrad Kurz is dead, which is good because he's a sick fuck. But the Night Lords are generally about terror, terrorizing people, and terrorism. They're generally about fear, and rightly so. You've got the World Eaters with Primarch Angron still alive.
Primarch Angron, the easiest name to remember. Basically the Angie boy. Look at that picture. Some of the comments said these pictures are fan art. Some of them are not official Warhammer art. But yes, Primarch Angie.
Also excited to see Angron. If you think you've known an angry person, Angron is the angriest son of a bitch you will ever know. Angron removed parts of his brain that didn't make him angry. So he could be angrier.
What?
Angron. Fucker's mad. You've got the Death Guard with Primarch.
Pausing. He removed parts of his brain to stay mad. Bro is the epitome of stay mad. He is the epitome of the Madge emote. The Madge people. Anger management is not a solution. He does everything mad. He probably eats his dinner mad. He probably showers mad. He probably pisses and shits mad. All of his sons are the same too. They're all the angry people of the internet. The enraged, the ragers, the League players, the Overwatch players, the ragers. This is Biggest. Hello, welcome in. This is all true. Anger management. How to be more angry? Someone else did it too. Him, Bricky misspoke here, but the result is the same. Oh, I see. Someone wanted him to be eternally Madge. Okay. His anger management are double chain axes and a bloodbath. Anger would be a top mate. He's just a little angry boy.
Mortarion, they actually have their own special codex and their own major army on tabletop. Mortarion himself is actually one of the models, and look at him. Look at
that
him.
is sick.
It's so cool looking. Of course, Nurgle based, obviously. So very slow, but very tanky. You've got the Word Bearers with Primarch Lorgar. Lorgar is, I believe, still alive. I'm up with him at the current moment.
Okay.
So the Word Bearers are generally the people who caused all the major problems in the beginning. At least I blame them for it. They're
problematic.
You got the Black Legion with Primarch Horus. Get fucked, nerd. You've got the Alpha Legion with Primarch Alfarius Omegon. Chaos, I think. And then finally you've got the...
I like that design. He looks like a scaly boy. Also, these guys from Space Marines 2, sorry.
Thousand Sons with Primarch
Yeah,
Magnus
the
the
Thousand
Nerd.
Sons.
Thousand Sons also have their own book, just like the Death Guard. Magnus is also a tabletop model. Super cool, as you can tell. And they're all super heavily Psyker and kind of Egyptian themed. They look pretty neat. But overall,
he looks
with
like a
all
fierce
of these
queen.
Chaos
Yeah.
Space Marine factions, you can play as a lot of different ones, but the main ones that you can really work at are standard Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, as well as the Death Guard and Thousand Sons, as they are the most fleshed out, especially on the tabletop at least. See this right here? This is a really good way to describe the Chaos Space Marines. What the thick-headed fools with their broken corpse of an emperor fail to understand is that not only can they never defeat us, but they cannot hide or flee or shield themselves from the triumph of chaos. They are
Badass.
finite and we are unbound, undivided.
They thrive in unity.
Must not err, or they shall fall to heresy. All who fall join our cause. Every imperial fool who dares to open his eyes is a willing recruit. They strive merely to hold back our fury and might, and it consumes them. Thus, you can see chaos is inevitable. We lurk not only beyond their grasp and at their gates, we lurk within the darkness of their souls, on the tip of their tongues, in their tortured dreams. We are them, but freed from the shackles of ignorance. We are them, grown strong, evolved. We are them, but so much more.
Bitch, you thought. Bitch, you thought. The arrogance of the chaos, but rightfully so. If you want to be a heretic, you have to be arrogant about it, right? You have to be proud to be a heretic, to be a successful heretic.
More. As hardcore as that quote is, the saddest part is they're mostly right. Chaos is basically unkillable. You could probably get rid of Space
Thank you, Shrimpy.
Marines a decent amount, the Chaos Space Marines that is, but every soul that dies goes to the warp. Every Chaos soul will end up back in the warp, and depending on how hard you killed them, they will come back at some point. Every demon you banish will return at some point. Chaos is unstoppable. The warp is unending. And while maybe there is at some point some way to stop them somehow, the resources to do so, the requirements to do so, are so far beyond the reaches of man and the other races at the current moment that really it's just an unstoppable force that just keeps on coming and is just barely being slowed. Chaos is by far the biggest threat. They are without number, their legions are everywhere, and yeah, they're pretty scary. So I promise we're done with humans now. Let's talk about some Xenos.
Okay. Wait, Eldar. Okay, here we go.
So let's talk about the Eldar, or also known as the Eldari, which are a super hyper-specialized and very technologically advanced race of
Psychers.
elf people. They were, as well, responsible for the creation of Slanesh, the newest demon god. How'd they do that?
Debauchery.
On a world-ending scale. See, back in the day, it was just Khorne, Tzeentch, and Nurgle. And the Eldar are very, very ancient, millions of years. These Eldar, however, have a bit of a sensory problem. You know, every kind of pain or feeling that you have is a little bit amplified compared to the normal. However, with Eldar, as their race advanced so excessively, and they became so self-reliant, and everything became so easy, there was no requirement for food production anymore, there was no shortages, everything was basically done. Everyone was so comfortable, and that comfort breeded this weird sedation, and that sedation breeded the requirement for more and more debauchery.
Debauchery!
Debauchery! Debauchery!
When everything you have can be so easily acquired, you will end up down this road of pure debauchery. All of the senses the Eldar had that were so powerful, things like feeling, happiness, sadness, and just evil and good.
Yes,
all
the
need to be
empaths.
satisfied and satiated. And the desire to satiate these senses
The crazy
grew more
empaths.
and more with worse and worse debauchery. It started off with things like sex and drugs becoming so much more rampant because of these are the first things you generally turn
So
to
what
when
are the drugs of
requirements for living
Warhammer?
are so easily accessible.
Do they
It would
have
get
what,
to the point
crack?
that made Sander Cohen in BioShock look sane. All right, this is the kind of debauchery it led to. It was constantly
LSD?
satisfying and satiating these sexual and sadistic or masochistic fantasies that only elevated and elevated. And this was species wide. People started going down darker, more depraved, and more violent paths as time went on.
More
However,
thirsty.
some people didn't entirely take to that. Some of the Eldar were looking at this depraved species that they had become
Pause, hold
and
on.
said,
Face crack.
no thanks for me, dog, I'm good. And they bailed. These are the Craftworld Eldar. They left on these giant
The crafters?
continent-sized starships called Craftworlds. They believed in learning the old ways of the Eldar and pushing away from this depravity and debauchery and going back to their main roots. And so they would segment themselves on these giant craft worlds far in the outer reaches of space. They even had this thing called the Webway. Remember what we mentioned about warp travel with the Imperium? Well, the Eldar had something way safer called a Webway. And the Eldar Webway is actually like a pocket dimension kind of thing. And in that pocket dimension, there were also more horrible, depraved groups and clans that would spend their time in there. And if you imagine the debauchery was bad already, these were debauchery X10. So all of this continued, and it bloated until
Slaanesh was
just
born.
burst forth. All that
Bursted.
emotion, all that mental, thought processes, I suppose.
All the
Of
emotions.
this in such a condensed space. Don't forget, this is all being shot, all their souls as well, into the warp. All of this depravity right into the warp. So what happened? Boom! Slaanesh was birthed and killed off 90%.
The warp's womb birthed out Slaanesh. Because, wait, you know what? Now that I think about it, so basically it's like the Eldars got the warp pregnant. Pregante. And because of their emotions. So you can say the warp is... The warp is fertile. The evil womb. The evil womb. Okay. The warp is... The warp is submissive and readable. Can we make that a meme? Actually, I'm gonna make a meme and post it on Twitter. The warp, submissive and readable, yes. When I have the time, yes. Yes. I don't know about being a sub. I'll post it on the Twitters.
Damn, son.
Yes. Okay, moving on.
Of the entire Eldar population, untold trillions trillions had their souls ripped from their bodies and their actual fleshy bodies devoured by Slaanesh demons. The entirety of the Eldar race was eaten alive and their souls consumed to the Prince of Pleasure. All of them got fucked up. It was so bad that it literally ripped a warp hole into...
Hold on. What the hell is this edit? Why? Buddy the Elf. Buddy the Elf is an Eldar confirmed.
to the fabric of the materium called the Eye of Terror. That's literally this like quasi horrifying gateway portal from the materium and the immaterium right next to Cadia. And it is horrifying. So this Slaanesh, also known as She Who Thirsts, by the
Horny on
Eldar,
main.
slaughtered the entire population except for a couple. Those in the craft worlds were actually not affected by this, as they were so far in the reaches of the galaxy. That crazy crack, that birth of Slaanesh, only affected the ones in the center. So these Craftworld Eldar were able to escape, but Slaanesh got their sights on them. Every time an Eldar will die, their soul doesn't just pass into the warp naturally. It goes straight to Slaanesh, Craftworld or not. What about those people in the webway? Well, imagine that giant birth happening, but they were only able to just barely get a grasp onto you. Slaanesh was just barely able to hold on. These people are the Dark Eldar, or also known as the Drukhari. The Eldar population right now is so massively small. It is minuscule compared to any of the other well, most of the other populations in the universe. The Eldar are consistently having issues trying to get their population up because as they're
just like Japan. the Japan 40k universe. Anyways,
souls are constantly being hungered by from Slaanesh, they realize their entire species is doomed. And they understand it very well. Since the time of the fall, our race has been haunted by what we, in our reckless pursuit of hedonistic indulgence, gave birth to. Though our dreams once overturned worlds and quenched suns, we are now but fitful shadows clinging to the edge of existence. All the stars in the sky cannot blot out the hateful glare of the red moon's eye. The birthing place of the great enemy pulses with all the malice of a demon that is dreaming, casting its shadow over all we have ever done and all we ever shall. Every twisted strand of fate and casting of the runes leads me to this time, to this place, and it is clear that the final battle awaits me at the ancient Crone worlds, a conflict the likes of which has not been seen since the Monkai warred amongst themselves and their corpse of a seer fell to his traitorous son. Is coming, and all my steps lead towards it, no matter that I walk other paths. I see the stars stained red with the blood of the Monkai, and though their wars do not concern me, I would gladly let them destroy one another. I know that to avoid this fight is to condemn my race to inevitable doom, and though all I see is darkness, I know that I will not flinch from my destiny.
It's kind of sad.
Cute plastic model.
Bro, I'm straight up not having a good time.
The first playable race we have for the Eldar are the Craftworld Eldar and living in those Craftworld starships I mentioned earlier. And each of them have their own kind of craft world, almost like a Space Marine Legion. Each craft world is in itself its own special kind of group. And the Eldar themselves are very fast and rely a lot on trickery. They are squishy, a bit weak, but they're very in tune as psychers. Tons of psychers across the entire Eldar population, and their weaponry and abilities are fast and extremely hard-hitting, but of course rather fragile. Understanding an Eldar's brain is an exercise in futility. They are all over the place in confusion and trickery on a whole galactic scale. They fight weird, they think weirder, and Eldar in their own right really rely on this to keep their species alive. They need to think about deception and the strangeness of what they do if they truly want to not be immediately murdered and slaughtered wholesale thanks to their entirely small population. However, I must say that it seems like their population is getting slightly better. These craft worlds hold millions upon millions of people. And as they continually, you know, reproduce and have their craft worlds expand, losing a few people in battle, while hurts a lot, they aren't really losing what's extremely precious to them. It's not like every single death means the death of their species. It seems like they're kind of on the upturn a little bit. They're still a doomed race being sucked into Slaanesh every time someone dies, but they are definitely doing a little bit better than they were before. Eldar are fast, and what they don't make up for in tankiness, they make up for in extremely advanced weaponry. They also call humans Monkai, which is something I mentioned earlier. That is a derogatory slur for humans in the Warhammer world. Why is it called Monkai? Well, it's because you can't, in your game, call people monkeys.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I am a fan of this color combination. It reminds me of freaking Wolverine. Where is the Wolverine faction? I will 100% lay down my heart and my sword for our Wolverine Primarch.
Not very tanky, generally pretty squishy, hit like trucks, and move at Mach 5. Fast, hit hard, die fast. Exactly how it sounds. They've been good for a very long time, too. We bring only death and leave only carry on. It is a message even a human can understand.
Wow.
Eldar. So, Drukari. Let's talk about the Dark Eldar.
Oh, Drukari, okay.
It's fucked up.
It's fucked up.
So those people I mentioned in the webway, in the super deranged cults and the depraved people of the Eldar, in the webway, they didn't quite get a hold onto them. Slaanesh like has them, but it has them on like by the pinky finger. And they're slowly being consumed by Slaanesh, but they found out they can stave her off by doing Slaanesh things. The Dark Eldar are by far the worst, most horrifying, disgusting, depraved, and brutal race in all of Warhammer 40k. These are entirely a group of people whose full purpose to save their species from extinction, to go into planets, raid them, and take as many slaves as they possibly can to torture them for 1, 5, 10, 20, a million years, because that torture will keep them from dying. They look very BDSM style too. They definitely have a lot more spiky bits and they have a lot more of that kind of leathery black look to them. But let's say you are an upstanding Imperial citizen living life on a regular planet. You get invaded by the Necrons. The Necrons will shoot you with a deatomizer and you will be destroyed in a millisecond.
Quick death.
That's it. Not the worst way to go. You are invaded by Chaos Marines or something. You take a bolter shot to the head or a chain sword across your stomach and you get cut in half. Painful, but not the worst. The orcs arrive. They beat you to death. Hurts, but, you know, whatever. Tyranids, they eat you alive. Rough. The Dark Eldar. Dark Eldar.
Oh,
no. Just gonna get a little graphic.
You'd rather die.
You pray you die.
Yeah.
You don't. You are instead taken as a human slave. Your life will be endless work and agony, 24/7. They will make sure you can't not die, as your pain satisfies them. They will hook you up to all manner of torture devices. They will inject pain-based like stimuli drugs directly into your nervous system. They will slowly run razor blades across your skin. They will fillet you and pull out your teeth and your fingernails one by one.
Toenails.
They'll remove your appendages and your skin and wait for it to grow back so they can do it again. They will murder and torture and use the R word. It rhymes with grape. Your entire family.
Oh my god.
And do the exact same thing to them.
Oh my
you
god.
Yourself will also be rhymes with grape anywhere and everywhere possible. And this will occur for 20 years until you are no longer satisfying to them. And then you will be contorted, crushed, and twisted into some form of trophy. A fleshy trophy or a ring.
A flesh trophy.
Or a TV stand. Or perhaps a wonderful hat. While you are still alive and breathing, and you will become a moaning, fleshy trophy for eternity.
Oh my god. So what are you wearing today? So I'm wearing Jim on my hand. He's my, he's screaming a little bit, don't mind him. And then for my hat, I'm wearing Tom. He's kind of cute. I like him as a hat. And then for my TV stand, we have good old Johnny Boy for my TV stand. You gotta raise the volume of the television because Johnny Boy screams kind of loudly, but don't mind him.
And that is what happens when you are taken by the Dark Eldar. They are the most depraved, most horrifying race in all of 40k. They look the part, and they do it so they all don't die. They are literally forced to do this, because if they don't, Slaanesh's grip will get harder, and they will have their souls pulled away. So long as they keep doing this, Slaanesh is like, "You're doing good, man. You're doing solid. You keep that shit up, you elf-eared bastards." That's the
Positive,
Dark Eldar. That's the
positive
Drukhari.
affirmations
They are
from
horrible.
Slaanesh.
On the tabletop, they're actually kind of like Eldar, but more extreme. They are even squishier than the Eldar, but they hit generally even harder. Fast attacks, skirmishers, really quick
That's
speed,
not
like
fair,
get around them,
though.
do a lot of damage, get away kind of stuff. That's
Wait,
mostly
what
Dark
is fair
Eldar.
in the
Look up the
Warhammer
definition
universe?
of grim dark in a dictionary. You'll find a picture of the Dark Eldar and Sev from Republic Commando.
Who?
A quote from Mr. Vecht. "We are the lords of despair, masters of terror. Dread and agony are our meat and wine, and they are plentiful indeed." Dark Eldar. Let's talk about the Harlequins.
Nasty boys.
Clowns.
What's the matter, Andy?
They're jokers.
Wanna have some fun?
The Harlequins are a bizarre race of Eldar.
Not the pants. Oh my goodness, I keep getting distracted by the edits. Okay, going back.
They're demonic clown performers. They're like a weird mix of Sander Cohen from BioShock and Jin from League of Legends,
Jin, my backline.
but in a more clown theme. They're artists of death and perfecters of their craft. They do not belong to Craftworlds or any of the weird Drukhari people. They guard something called the Black Library, which is this giant tome of never-ending knowledge deep in the heart of the Eldar webway, and also guarded by their god named Kegorok, I believe is how you...
Kegorok. A keg and a rock equals Kegorok.
He is the laughing god, but it's the
The
Eldar
laughing god.
And these are the Harlequins, the Harlequin clowns. These are Eldar clowns.
The clown god.
Okay? So imagine the things that an Eldar, these depraved individuals, would find funny. And this is the god of that. It's a horror.
Oh,
These are
no.
gods of horror for us normal people. For them, they're like, oh, it's so funny. They're all dying horribly. Honk, honk. They're very bizarre and difficult to describe. They've escaped the ruinous powers of Slaanesh somehow, but their main thing is guarding that Black Library, and the Harlequins just...
So maybe they have the knowledge inside the Black Library how they escaped Slaanesh's clutch.
But their main thing is guarding that Black Library, and the Harlequins just... They're demon clown performers. They're barely any models on the tabletop. They're good at melee. They're demon clowns. I'm
demon
not
clowns.
sure. I got a quote. "It is too easy for an Eldar to embrace the obscene virtues of chaos, for Slaanesh is nothing more than a manifestation of the Eldar mind in its most wild and unconstrained form. Human morality is meaningless to the Eldar, and to the dark side of the Eldar mind, all life is to be expended at a whim. Cruelty and generosity are but the impulse of a moment. Beauty and sensuality are virtues that can be expressed in bloodshed just as easily as in song. To an unfettered Eldar mind, there is neither sanity nor madness, but merely a wave of perfect existence fulfilled by its own savage momentum." They're very strange.
These are the crazy boys of the Eldars, basically. The mentally deranged of the Eldars. Well, I'd say all of them are kind of are.
Harlequins, Drukhari, Eldar, they are an anomaly that make humans seem completely easy to understand in comparison. They range from rekindling their civilization to horrifying murder and also clowns. They're all over the place, but honestly, they represent quite well and are rather interesting, especially with the whole Slanesh murdering everyone bit. So, yeah, Eldar. Now, bugs.
Ma, they following me, Ma. They following me. These the bugs.
The bugs!
The Tyranids. Now, you want to talk something a lot more fun, a little more simple than all this crazy Eldar shenanigans? Let's talk the Tyranids. They're bugs. Do they look like Zerg? Hell yeah, they look like Zerg. You want to know why they look like Zerg? Because they were actually supposed to be what Zerg were. Apparently, StarCraft was supposed to be a 40k game in the beginning, hence why they look so much like Eldar, Zerg, and the Imperium of Man. Like, kind of Space Marine-y. Those Marines, huh? They look a little bit Space Marine-y to me. Maybe. I don't know. You really fucked up on that one, Games Workshop, didn't ya? Tyranids are a giant infestation of unfathomable proportions. These are giant, extremely bio-advanced hive mind organisms
hive
that
mother.
are basically all about absorbing as much biomass as they possibly can to evolve and mutate to be extremely potent and powerful and kill and eat anything in their path. They are probably the least evil faction in all of 40k because all they want to do is
evil?
shit. They want to
All they want to do is eat shit. Okay. They are literally hungry hippos. If not friend, why? They are not friend shape. Look at this. Look at this artwork. Does that look like a friend shape to you? Would you want a domesticated Tyranid? Would you put this on a leash and take it for walkies? Why, yes! Fuck my neighbor. Oh my god.
Om nom nom the entire galaxy. They hangry and we food. Also, this Tyranid hive mind has a presence in the warp. In fact, Tyranids in their own right have a massive presence in the warp. They have a thing called the shadow in the warp specifically, where when they are coming in to invade a planet, they have this weird ability to kind of cut off the warp on all the psychers on that planet. And how do you get help across the stars? Well, you need the warp because you need that for interstellar travel. So with people unable to call for help from the Tyranids, these are just easy pickings. And an entire giant Tyranid hive fleet comes out of orbit and just will massacre, absorbing all that biomass and turning them and all of their other Tyranids into even more advanced monsters. They come in so many varieties too, all based on what is important. Tiny little ripper swarms for scouting and having little dudes eat people up, to the Hormigons, Termagants, and Genestealers.
Hormigons, Termagants.
Hive Guard and the Exocrines and the Swarm Lord.
Yeah.
To Hive Tyrants and their giant battle fleets. And even
Okay, finding the Hive Tyrant was really cool.
something as crazy as the Hierophant Bio Titan.
Can we get this in Space Marines too, please? Please. Please, I would like to fight a very big, scary, very huge, very big Tyranid, please. Thank you. Thank you. Gotta add the game devs in the Discord server. Okay.
The Tyranids come in all forms and sizes depending on what they require. They are extremely good at anti-biological weaponry. There is no way you can plague them or blight them. They have extremely strong armor, carapaces and such. Tyranids are nigh perfect organisms and are pretty spooky when it comes down to how they handle all of their genetic material. Keep feeding them, they'll keep evolving. They keep on creating new horrifying organisms to spread across the galaxy. And you want to know what the most terrifying part of the Tyranids is? We might be surrounded. There have been around 6 or 7 Tyranid hive fleets. Behemoth, Kronos, all these different kinds of hive fleets, and they've all arrived in the galaxy from different points. Different sections of the Milky Way galaxy have had different Tyranids come through. And that is horrifying because as far as we know, we could just be surrounded on all sides by Tyranids. The only reason you may not hear
that
a
is
whole
a
lot
terrifying
about Tyranids
idea
is because it's a little bit hard to have a bunch of story off of one hive mind genocidal monsters.
Genocidal. Oh my god. Yes.
All these giant bugs swarming in, killing and eating everybody and evolving. Oh, I mean, as cool as there are some cool characters, the Swarm Lord, Old One Eye, you can't really have a whole bunch of major character-based stories around them. As awesome as they are, they're simple. They want to eat you. They want to eat you and absorb your biomass. They are simple bugs. If you want something a little more complex, talk Genestealer Cults.
I can have all the pot I want, I get around faster than walking, and wherever I need a seat, I can just sit on my balls.
Genestealer Cults are a special brand of Tyranid that can slowly infect themselves into different kinds of society. And by infecting them, they can rise up to where they all pray and believe in these regular humans, pray and believe into their Tyranid hive mind gods. And these brood lords, and I think they're called
What is that he is eating?
patriarchs, all can turn an entire world all based into Genestealers, and these are called Genestealer Cults. An entire hive world of the Imperium can be turned into nothing but servants of the Tyranid masters just by infecting them and screwing with their genetic code a little bit.
No. So they're like the scientist, the mad scientist. That's actually pretty cool. He's eating a meat roll-up. Oh my god. Cherry flavor meat roll-up.
Cool, like Mad Max look, which is really neat. They are definitely one of the bigger threats to the Imperium besides Chaos. I keep saying biggest threat to the Imperium. They're up there though, because you, dingus, stepped on a bug in middle school. Asshole. There's a cancer eating.
The bugs got their revenge. Okay, there is a cancer.
At the Imperium. With each decade, it advances deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought and purpose that functions on an unimaginable galactic scale, and all we can do is to try to stop the swarms of bioengineered monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salvage our fears. We call it the Tyranid race. But if it is aware of us, it must know us as nothing but prey. Tyranids, they're cool.
That is very cool.
But are they as cool as the orcs?
It is time! It is time to learn about the boys!
Every screen's gone red. That means I'm super fast.
Orcs, 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 orcs,
Orcs, orcs, orcs, orcs, orcs, orcs,
orcs. Fucking love orcs. So, yes, the green monsters, the green tide, the green skins.
Yes.
These orcs, they are in fact a race in 40k.
Yes.
The orcs are as exactly what you expect them.
Yes.
They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they got big old teeth, and they want to kill everything, and there are so many of them. The only reason they haven't taken over the entire galaxy is they can't stop murdering each other. Orcs are so cool. Orcs don't have philosophy. Orcs don't have existential crisis. What matters is who's the biggest orc.
Oh my god, yes! I love that. I love that. What matters is who is the biggest orc. This is where size matters.
Listen to that guy, because he the biggest orc. He big orc knows best. You win through the power of imagination. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic?
I love this. I love everything about them. Oh my god, they're just silly little guys, you know. They fight you, they fight each other. They want to be the biggest, the baddest.
As an orc, you're enjoying life. You're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can.
Oh my god.
The biggest orc is...
What? I love his face. Look at that.
The man who understands everything. He is the boss. And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent, which is just hilarious to me. Those are
even
orcs.
better.
You're you fight. You like to fight. Your whole purpose is to fight. You wage war
Yes.
because you want to wage war. You got your
Yes.
boss over there, and you better listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs, and then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight because the orc dead. Orcs, they scrap together machines out of parts that don't make any sense, and because they believe
Scrapplers.
they have the mental imagination that machine
Oh my
will
God.
run, it'll run. If
Oh
that
my God.
machine's out of gas,
So they're basically manifestors. If they think it will run out of the scraps, it will run.
you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the
Look at
biggest
that.
orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not. I filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the fucking mech back on, and
Yeah.
it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not, but it works.
But it works.
The power of imagination. They paint things.
So hold on. Does that mean they're like psychers? They imagine and then make it a reality. This is shaped like a spaceship, so it flies in space, and then it happens. They are 100% violent manifestors, the mother of gaslighting. They're technically the strongest psychic race. More like they gaslight reality. Okay, they're just very. How are they stupid if they make things happen? They have two gods, Gork and Mork. Really? I'm loving this so much.
Something that goes faster. They paint things.
Faster with an accent.
Things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You
Purple.
know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are all.
I've actually never seen a purple orc. So wait, hold on. There are purple orcs? And they're invisible? We can't see them? They're the sneakiest? What? What? They are quite literally invisible. Can't confirm. I love the purple orc thing. It is so dumb, but I love it. Oh my god. They're literally the ship posters of the Warhammer 40k universe. And I'm all for it. I love these guys.
Also, like, ancient as hell. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Orcs, and they were much larger and
Crooks?
scarier and far more intelligent.
Orcs?
Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're pretty spooky. They're not very well armored, but they hit really hard. And it's called the Green Tide because there are so many orcs. There are about as many
The
orcs
Green
as there
Wave.
are Tyranids. Maybe more. Who knows? But they keep on, murdering each other, so it's not too bad of an issue.
I can't. This is like comedic relief. Imagine watching the war happen, right? And one faction against the orcs, and you see the orcs, they go into war, they run into the enemy, and a bunch of them just start hitting each other. Because, I don't know, Jimmy John orc actually stepped on Jimmy Jones' toe, and now they're fighting each other, and then it gets bigger. And then a fight starts from within the orcs, side. And then that, idea to me is so funny. I'm a tank. That is all. Never seen one before, but yes, their population is massive.
Orcs are entirely comic relief. Their stuff
You
is
said it.
slapped together that makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works, because they imagine that it works. Orcs care only about who is the biggest orc, and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc. And then when they go and they issue a wa is just war in orc, they murder everybody and everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they get to beat shit up. That's orcs. And on the tabletop, they are a total coin flip, and they're really fun. I have never met a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing. Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained. Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're just super well trained. Orcs,
accurate as
they
hell.
hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot with anything. From the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't
dinkiest to the
Half of their
binkiest.
stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. There's...
What the actual fuck? I'm just finding it so funny because I'm imagining this in IRL. Imagine a surgeon goes, I actually can't fucking fix it. You know what? You know what? Pull the plug. Fuck. Oh my god, they're so silly. Yeah, the medic boys tried their best. It's exactly that. Me tried to heal you. Me can no heal you. You die now. Bye.
So wacky and silly. But the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people. And if you don't, you lose. I mean, that's what you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play orc. It's a coin flip.
The RNG.
Which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs. Because things won't go your way.
So they're perfect for me then. They're perfect for me. So you're telling me if I were to do a campaign of Warhammer, I should go with the orcs.
It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're going to have fun and you want to be stupid and you want to be silly, you're going to play some damn orcs. But on the opposite side of the fun part of this, let's talk about the Necrons. The Necrons are spooky, scary skeletons and very grimdark again. They have a much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just undead Egyptian space terms, and they still look that way, but now they actually have a story. So way back in the day, you had the Necron tier. Kind of see a theme here, Eldari, Eldar, Orc, Necron, Necron tier. So the Necron tier were this race of generally kind of shitty people. Not because they were personally shitty, because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a horrible existence of like radiation and a terrible planet they lived on, and everything just really sucked. Being a Necron tier was just really depressing. They really
So that's why they're
for
fleshless.
Immortality. They were extremely reliant on the hope that they would eventually find the key to living forever and to stave off this horrible nature that they were thrust upon them, and therefore they could become the most dominant race in the galaxy. And they found this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like the Forerunners in Halo or the Xel'Naga in StarCraft, right?
It's us, guys, the old ones.
Right. These Old Ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings, and they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said, please, show us your ways. And the Old Ones said, piss off. Not really. They were a lot more humble about it, but they did not want to share their secret of immortality with the Necrons. The Necrons, of course, took this very well and waged war with them, kind of under this united banner. The Necron different dynasties didn't really like each other, but under this one man, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite his race was to do this giant war with the Old Ones out of spite for them keeping the secret of immortality to
gatekeeping,
them.
yes.
This was known as the War in Heaven, and this is actually like a multi-stage war. Because during this war in heaven, they discovered the Star Gods, a whole new race of people known as the Catan, or the Catan. These Star Gods
yes.
were also very much like old ones, almost omnipotent beings, and they too had the key to immortality. And so the Necrons went to them and said, hey, can you help us fight off the old ones? Can you help us kill these old ones, you, the Catan? And the Catan said yes. And in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek. So the Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact with the Catan to allow them to accept this generous gift of immortality upon them.
Bad idea.
But this, of course, had been a horrendous trap.
Exactly.
And the Necrons were dragged in chains to this biotransference where their flesh was stripped from them, replaced with nothing but a metal hollow shell, as their souls were ripped from their body and fed to the Catan. And the Catan fattened up. They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons. As this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic slaves just to serve their will. And then, with their new-founded Necron army, they pointed their guns at the old ones, and the Catan continued their domination of the stars and their genocide, complete and full genocide of these old ones. The old ones did their best
Rip
to stave
the
it
old
off.
ones.
They even created other races, the Eldari and the ORKS, to try to fight off the horrifying Necron army and the Catan above them. But there was absolutely no possible chance for them. And the old ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy. Their entire race completely removed. Full-on 100% genocide. However, during all this, the Catan, so just infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences. Doesn't
like
matter.
the
Catan,
Eldars
with these overpowered people, they're going to eventually hit each other at some point.
Oh yeah, that's
true.
true.
And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldari and the ORKS actually started pushing on the Catan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided to leap into action and start a full scale revolt against their Catan masters. And this revolt was bloody, as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were, just after suffering horrendous losses, were able to turn the tide of the war. And they took these Catan and they blasted them. Because as these star gods are unkillable, they were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of their old gods enslaved to them, they realized that soon their race was about to be attacked by the overcoming new races, the Eldari and the Krorks. And
the Krorks! I'm with the Krorks on here. You know, screw the Necrons.
So what they did is they retreated into giant stasis tombs in order to preserve their energy and their strength for when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy that was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and now the Necrons are back and they see all these primitive races on their lawns and they think, get the fuck off of it. The Necrons are back, super advanced, and they are here to reclaim the galaxy that they so rightfully believe is theirs. Now at tabletop, they're a lot like that. Tons of undead Egyptian skeleton robots that when they die, they just get right back up because they keep on reanimating. Hard to kill, tons of crazy stuff. You can use the Catan themselves as units to fight with. Pretty cool. The Necrons are one of the three major events in 40k. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events. And the Necrons themselves are pretty dang cool as well. Here's a good quote from a wonderful Dawn of War game. Lucky creatures, as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs, I was remade. Here, my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more. So come, poor victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts. Kronos will be a tomb world once more. Necrons are also pretty smug. Trays in the Infinite especially.
Really?
Dickhead. But speaking
So they
of
got Riz.
dickheads, last race. Let's talk the Tau.
The Tau.
The exact formation of the Tau Empire is not entirely understood. However, a long time ago, many thousands of years ago, in the 40K world that is, some Imperial navigation vessels were going around through different areas, and they saw a primitive race, blue people, smacking each other with sticks and stones. They thought, nah, dumb Xenos race, who gives a shit, and they bailed. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks. Well, they decided to actually have no war of any kind and all just unite together under one flag of the Tau Empire. And now they have gigantic starships and Gundam robots and lasers and railguns and mechs, and they are here to ruin your day for the greater good. That is generally the Tau Empire. They have this kind of feeling of this homogenous group. All species can go underneath the banner of the greater good. The greater good is their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all. In fact, they are most likely the most like the Covenant in Halo, where they have the overarching prophets, being the ethereals, who are actually kind of dicks and like to pull at strings a little bit, but then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that tries to spread their weirdly pseudo-religious influence across the galaxy. The alien is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him, his ignorance. Seek to understand his differences and equate him with his inadequacies. Only then will he accept his place in the greater good. That is generally the Tau. And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, they're all about big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles and rail guns. They got giant mechs with tons of missile pods and heavy rail rifles and rail guns and burst cannons and ion accelerators and void shields and all this stuff. And that is generally what the Tau's all about. But you're probably thinking, Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil.
I will say they look like what's a good, you know the alien from Lilo and Stitch. You know what I'm talking about? There's an alien there. He's kind of blue. That's what I'm thinking of. The Lilo and Stitch aliens. I can remember Pleakley, the whale dude, or the commander lady. Yes, commander lady. Lilo and Stitch. Yes. No, not Stitch. Yeah, the commander lady. The Tau Empire kind of reminds me of the commander lady. Okay, Gontu. Isn't he the big guy? Literally Stitch's race. Stitch, but he got old. Stitch got old and he joined the war. Okay, back to the video. So yeah, doesn't sound that evil, but...
This doesn't sound very grim, dark Warhammer. And you'd be right. The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying, grim, dark style like everybody else. They're much more younger, new age thing. In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in the day because they liked having like that good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So, see, the Tau get a lot of hate, and a lot of that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective, but as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently, they don't really fit in the 40k universe very well.
Kind of,
they
yeah.
lack that super dark, dramatic kind of high
No
gothic
torture
level
or
the Imperium
slavery.
has. They don't have the weird kind of like grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orcs do. And the Necrons and the Eldar have their own specific style as well. The Tau really do look like something out of Gundam. And while it isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does definitely not fit too well. There's that. There's also the tabletop problem. In tabletop, Tau are horrible at melee combat, but exceptionally good at range combat. So they blast everyone from really, really far away, and they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat. So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun, they're going to win every time, because they're the Tau, and the Tau are really damn good at shooting. So it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated, and a lot of different reasons for that, both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their
The towel. Yes, the towels.
issues, you should not be discouraged from playing them. I'll make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes, of course I will, but it's all generally in good fun. Anyone who legitimately doesn't want you to play a faction is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day. You pick what you think is cool and what you like. In Warhammer, especially now, factions get better and they get worse. They grow and then they fall. You should only be playing what you think is cool. You like the look, you like the models. If you're talking tabletop, that is what you should be going for every time, is what you think is badass, because things change all the time. But the universe of Warhammer has so much going for it. Every faction has something interesting, every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told.
Exactly.
The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in these two videos, is anything you could take away is the reason why so many of us are so into this series and why we like it so much.
The grim
because
dark.
with so much variety, such an expansive universe, and so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been informative to you. If you'd like to see more of me, Bricky, we have twitch.tv/Bricky for my streams.
I'm actually gonna follow him right now. Hold on. Bricky. Let us go to. Let's look at his channel. Bricky. There we go. I'm gonna leave him a follow. You know, you should too. You should too. Go give him a follow. Okay. Okay. Going back to the video. There we go. Merch! Ooh, those are cool. Those are cool.
I have my merchandise site in which I was wearing all of my merch, but underneath this, because
Yeah, shout
I
him
had
out.
to wear this so it wasn't black or white for the green screen, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. If you'd like to see merch, it is in the description. Also, if you'd like to support me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Bricky for more videos like this, then that would also be wonderful. So Twitch, merch, Patreon, anything if you want to support, that would be fantastic. I'd appreciate it. If not, I'm just stoked you got all the way to the end of the video, and that is enough for me. So I'm going to be having some more content like this out in the future. Thank you so much for sticking around this long
Bricky.
and being with me through this pretty rough time. That's, I think, all I got. Also, before I go, let me leave you with my favorite Warhammer quote. He who scoffs at the power of the las gun has never ran through a field of 1,000 of them. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I learned the last video. Or I think the previous one. No, the first video. Yeah. Thank you, Bricky! Thank you, thank you! 0707!